I'd love to hear, as somebody who is aware of, all these different healthy foods, and I'm sure you have a way of combining them in your day-to-day routine, so you're getting different benefits from different ones. I'd love to hear what a typical day of eating looks like for you.
Ah, okay. Well, I don't have I don't follow a diet, but I follow an approach. And my approach is really based on the traditions of both the Mediterranean and also based on the traditions of Asia, both of which are very healthy cultures, both of which actually cook fresh whole foods together and combine ingredients in a way that are really appealing and tasty, with traditions that go back thousands of years. Okay, and eat seasonally. So I would say that's my general approach. But in the morning, honestly, I eat a very, very light breakfast, and I love to have coffee. I lived in Italy during a gap year before I went to medical school, and I developed a habit of drinking coffee. I take it straight. I don't put dairy in it. I don't put sugar in it. And it turns out that that it's like an espresso is like packed with omega-3 fatty acids. And so I'll have coffee during the day. Later in the day, I'll actually switch to tea. And because the caffeine doesn't bother me so much, I'm okay having tea. Even after dinner, I'll sip some tea. There's different kinds of tea, like a digestive tea. There's something called Pu'er tea, Pu-ERH, comes from a town of Pu'er in China. It's a smoky fermented tea. It's a probiotic tea, by the way. So people don't realize that there are teas that are probiotic. And in fact, there's a new bacteria that was discovered in pu'er tea, and it actually helps your metabolism. It helps to fight body fat, which is pretty cool. But I also drink green tea and oolong teas as well. So that's just kind of like the background of the beverage. And then water is what I'll also drink. So if you notice, I'm not talking about drinking soda. I don't drink soda. I'm not. I will occasionally sip some juices, but only like fresh squeezed juices, and I take the pulp with it. I don't have the pure stuff. I want the fiber. I want the good stuff in it. And so these are. But water is another kind of beverage I have, and I'm setting the stage for this because that's important. Like beverages, what we drink actually are an important part of what we eat. A lot of people don't think about that, right? What food should I eat? And then you don't talk about what people are drinking, but we need to drink, we need to hydrate every single day. So I wanted to start with that to let you know that I'm very conscious of what I drink and what I take into my body.
I am as well. And
Coffee.
before we move into the food piece, I want to ask you about something. You mentioned quickly there, omega-3s, the connection with espresso. Talk more about that.
Oh, no. Well, I talked about chlorogenic acid with coffee, and so I'm not aware of any omega-3s linked to coffee, but I do actually drink coffee regularly.
That makes sense. I was confused on the connection there.
Yeah. And I try to get organic coffee, by the way, for the reasons I said earlier, which is that the organic actually has more of the bioactive, the chlorogenic acid. You know what? These things are all kind of rules of thumb, and I try to get it. If I have a cup of, conventionally grown coffee, not going to hurt me. I'm okay with it. I think you have to be reasonable at how you live your life. And that's one of the things that I want people to know is that I don't go by hard, strict rules. You have to adapt to your circumstances. Every day is a little bit different than the previous day. But I do actually, I'm well aware of that. In terms of the foods that I eat, I like to actually eat fruit, not too much of it. A single pear during a seasonal fruit, like a pear, actually will have 6 grams of dietary fiber. That's been shown, a medium-sized pear, actually to be helpful to your gut microbiome. It helps to grow a bacteria called ruminococcus. That ruminococcus has been shown to up your game in terms of immune defense so powerfully, by the way, that they've studied cancer patients who are eating about 6 grams of dietary fiber. And that ruminococcus that they're able to measure out of their poop actually correlates with their immune response to fight cancer. You get better survival, actually, if you actually eat 6 grams of dietary fiber a day, anywhere from 6 to 20. And so really powerful stuff. Like it's in the back of my mind. And by the way, for people who are interested, I put this kind of information out on a regular basis every single week on a newsletter that I have on my website that's free. And, please sign up for it because I'm drinking out of a fire hose every day, looking at this new research that's coming out and trying to figure out like, okay, so what's important for us to know? What's actionable? And so that's the kind of information that I'll incorporate into my own life, into my own diet, right? So I'll try to have some fruit. I don't eat a ton of fruit at a sitting, and that's important. If you drink 2 cups of orange juice, by the way, it takes about 8 oranges to make 2 cups of juice, and that's got more sugar in it than a can of soda. All right, so a lot of people don't realize that just because it's coming out of a fruit doesn't mean that it's healthy for you. But a little bit of an orange, I would eat a whole fresh orange, a clementine, a Valencia orange. I'll just eat that, but make sure you have it with the pulp and the fiber because that's actually good for your microbiome. So I'm very aware of that kind of a thing. I like to have a light salad. I eat very light lunches. I like to have light salad. I took an opportunity to have greens. Sometimes if I have a cooked green or a vegetable, I'll take it from leftovers the night before and I'll heat it up and eat that. And I tend to eat a light-ish lunch as well. Something that we can talk about if you like, or we can talk about at another juncture is really this whole idea of what's become quite trendy. We call it intermittent fasting. Eating lightly actually is equivalent to has equivalence to fasting because it all has to do with the amount of calories that you're putting into your body. Eating lightly actually makes everything that we've ever studied in research live longer and live healthier. It's really when we actually have the overage of putting food and calories in our body that we overload. And I tend to have a little bit of a more filling dinner. And, I like fish. I like whole grains. I like legumes. Something that gets underrated, but that is super healthy, and dirt cheap are beans. Canned beans, dried beans. You can buy them by the bushel, by the bag, and you can create all kinds of flavorful things with herbs and spices and cook them with broths. You can make a stew out of it, and they're also good for sprinkling onto salads. And so I do like to actually eat that. And by the way, the reason I'm mentioning all this in this order is that this is how I think about meal planning. Okay. Notice I haven't yet gotten to the protein, the animal protein or the fish protein I'm actually going to eat because sometimes I don't add one. But if I add one, I stay away from red meat. Sometimes I'll have a little chicken. If I have chicken, I'll actually have the dark meat because the dark meat, which is usually from thigh, will normally contain more vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is a bioactive mostly in free range chickens that are actually allowed to eat normal things that chickens are supposed to eat. The vitamin K accumulates in their legs, and you can actually get that into your body that way. It starves cancer. It's really good for your circulation. So again, very mindful. Or fish. Now here's another little kind of hack, I guess, that I use. Now I really like to cook, and I don't love to eat, but I really enjoy food. I enjoy the history of food. I love the traditions of food. And more importantly, I enjoy good taste, right? So one of the things that you can do if you want to get omega-3s and you want something really tasty and you want to make it super convenient and not very expensive, people might laugh at this, but I will go and buy a tin of fish, like tin fish in the middle aisles. Not the stuff that looks like cat food. Okay, that's what I used to think when I was a kid. The cans of tuna, when you open them up, they look and smell exactly like cat food to me. But actually, in Europe, they have these beautiful thin tins of fish that have piquillo peppers and olive oil and garlic and lemon and herbs. It's a great way to, it's a couple of bucks for a tin. You pop it open. It's already cooked, steamed, flavored. And literally, you can eat it right out of the can, and you get this amazing burst of protein, burst of flavor, and you get the omega-3s. And because when they're packed in olive oil, you also get the benefits of the bioactives in olive oil, which is a healthy fat like hydroxytyrosol, which is anti-inflammatory, good for your gut microbiome, and it actually helps your metabolism as well.
I appreciate all the detail there. And there's 3 different things I want to hit on after you went through that. One being, you mentioned consuming grains. I'm curious, do you avoid gluten?
I don't avoid gluten, although I know that it can be helpful for some people to avoid gluten. And again, let me explain my position on this. If you are an individual who has eaten foods that contain gluten and your stomach is upset, you could actually be gluten sensitive And then in a minority of cases, you might actually have celiac disease, which is essentially an autoimmune or cross reaction of your own immune system triggered by gluten that actually attacks your own gut. In which case, by all means, what you need to do medically is actually just cut down or cut out gluten altogether, because that continuous assault by your immune system, inflammation on your gut, prompted by gluten, can be actually very harmful to your overall long-term health. But if you're not somebody who's sensitive to gluten, many glutinous foods also carry along with them all these other bioactives. And so I think that, this idea of like gluten being the devil, got to stay away from gluten, all gluten free, all glutens are, it's so easy in the health and wellness space to demonize, find a term that may have well-intentioned people find a term that may have some biological rationale in certain situations, but then they actually create a banner on it, and then it gets spread as the mother of all evils, and it's not the case. So I will eat gluten. I think that I generally eat whole grain types of foods, and I don't eat a ton of carbs to begin with. But I will have that, and for me, it actually works for me. I'm not actually harmed by it. I do think that a lot of people, by the way, who say that they're gluten sensitive, it turns out, and this is not everybody, but some people, what they're sensitive when they're eating a package of pancake mix or whatever it is, and it's got a lot of gluten in it, right? Because of pancakes, of flour and pancakes. It turns out they're also sensitive to the chemicals and preservatives and the flavorings that are found in the pancake mix. So sometimes it's not just the gluten that's actually harmful. So again, I think that there's all this vilification of things like lectins and vilification of phytoestrogens and gluten, that the God is in the details. And this is what food is medicine research and researchers like me are doing. We're really trying to wade in there and try to tease apart all the stuff so that people are not quite so confused.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
So while it's very important to know how to choose the right foods, it's equally important to know what foods we want to be cautious of, wary, and cut down or cut out or avoid altogether. We're feeding our gut bacteria.